He functioned as a, quote, private sector intelligence asset and fixer whose value derived from his several interlocking advantages, right? And here they are. Access is number one. He had access to global elites in finance like J.P. Morgan and Rothschild, and politics like Clinton, Netanyahu, and intelligence through the Mossad and the CIA, and the royal families of the UAE and Saudi Arabia, just to name a few. The links are almost endless, but those are like the key ones that are mentioned. He operated in an unofficial private capacity and created plenty of plausible separation from any kind of formal state action. His methods included financial engineering, philanthropic control, academic influence, surveillance technology, sex trafficking, which is the thing that everyone's most familiar with. But his list of financial crimes is prodigious. And traditional just deal making, above board legal deal making. So he was a major player in the energy and economic security, providing energy and economic security for Israel. So the Leviathan gas field, on that, Epstein served as a behind-the-scenes advisor. He brokered a Netanyahu J.P. Morgan meeting in 2011 that helped secure financing for this gas field, and he coached Ehud Barak on policy and antitrust issues. And he directly aided Israel's transformation into a Mediterranean energy exporter in doing all of this. He acted as a middleman between Ehud Barak and the Swiss banking elites, like Ariane de Rothschild and Julius Baer, and he secured funding for Israeli cyber weapon startups and defense technologies, presenting it as venture capital. He has direct intelligence links. He housed active Israeli intelligence officer Yoni Koren. Sorry, not Koran. Oh, that would be an insult to him, probably.
Probably.
Yoni Koren in his New York home. He facilitated secure communications and White House tours for Israeli officials, and he operated as a back channel between U.S. and Israeli intelligence services. Got his start in arms and surveillance trafficking in the Iran-Contra era. His early career, he's linked to Adnan Khashoggi and other Iran-Contra figures, and he assisted in repurposing CIA-linked aircraft to be able to traffic weapons from Israel to Iran. And alongside Ehud Barak, he brokered sales of Israeli mass surveillance technology to the Côte d'Ivoire, contributing to the construction of the police state there, and similarly in Mongolia. And those deals fit into this broader pattern of monetizing global instability. That's one thing that you get from all of this information is wherever there's global instability, Jeffrey Epstein is there to exploit it, be it Ukraine, where he went to get young women who were destitute and down on their luck, and in the Côte d'Ivoire, which actually didn't really, creating the repressive police state in Côte d'Ivoire actually ended up getting that government overthrown. So foiled there, yeah. But that doesn't bother Jeffrey Epstein because he was still able to make a lot of money off of it.
Right.
He acted as a Syria-Russia back channel. So apparently Epstein and Barak worked to try to orchestrate Bashar al-Assad's removal through Russia, which included editing op-eds, securing meetings with Putin's aides for the Israelis, and attempting to steer U.S. policy towards military intervention against Iran. And this right here, what I just mentioned, him getting meetings between Israel and Russia, is used as evidence that he cooperated with the FSB.
Yeah, because I've noticed a lot of people really kind of scrambling for something other than Israeli intelligence to point to. Like like Donald Tusk of Poland saying they wanted to research to find the Russian connection.
Yeah, it's like Russia. Like Putin was mentioned 1,000 times in the Epstein files. It's like, yeah, most of those are of Epstein trying unsuccessfully to get meetings with Putin, and then other ones where he's trying to get Putin overthrown. So the people that inroads into the Russian political scene He had meetings with political operatives in Russia and meetings with people who ran NGOs and philanthropic organizations in Russia. And he had inroads with a couple of politicians in Russia, but nothing formal and nothing to indicate that he worked with the FSB. In fact, one of the politicians that he had inroads with was Ilya Ponomarev, who was he was an MP in the Duma, and he was one of Epstein's contacts. And Epstein was communicating with Ponomarev to see if Ponomarev could be part of the interim government that would take over after a coup that Epstein would help foment with Russian help to overthrow Putin. Now Ponomarev is in exile, and he bounces between Poland and Ukraine, and he runs the Ukrainian military unit, the Russia Free Legion, which has a bunch of right-wing Russian nationalists who want to overthrow Putin fighting in it. And they fight alongside the neo-Nazi Legion in Russia that's run by the satanic Nazi pedophile. And it sounds like hyperbole when I say this.
But it's literally true.
It's literally like he's a self-professed neo-Nazi who was at one point part of the Order of the Nine Angles, which promotes pedophilia and any kind of like taboo breaking depravity that will help collapse Western civilization. What's his name?
It's like if 4chan could be like manifest in the real world. This is the ideology of these people.
Here we go. It's the RVC, the Russian Volunteer Corps, and it's Denis Kapustin, and he has deep ties to the neo-Nazi Order of the Nine Angles, and I think he is in that band called Hitler's Hammer. Either he is in that band, or that's just a band that is that comes out of the Russian Volunteer Corps, and they put on that the neo-Nazi black metal festival with Azov every year in Ukraine. But anyway, so he was instrumental in the UAE-Israel normalization before the Abraham Accords. He helped cultivate relationships between Sultan bin Sulayem and facilitated ports and cybersecurity deals and medical care arrangements in Israel. And those efforts helped lay the groundwork for the 2020 Abraham Accords with his buddy Donald Trump. So, and in the world of finances, he exercised de facto control over Leslie Wexner's fortune and foundation and directed pro-Israel philanthropic initiatives, programs such as the Wexner Israel Fellowship at Harvard, and he used foundation funds as an instrument of soft power that promoted the interests of Israel. Through Harvard donations and elite connections, notably through Larry Summers, he collaborated with Alan Dershowitz to smear critics of Israel like John Mearsheimer. And John Mearsheimer wrote that book relatively recently about the Israel lobby in the United States. And Dershowitz and he penned several articles together and then spearheaded a campaign to smear Mearsheimer and Walt, who is his co-author in the book. And then, of course, there's the coercion and compromat, which is the area that everyone knows the most about. It's not the central focus of any of these articles, but it is mentioned that his sex trafficking operation serves as a dual function: personal gratification, obviously, and he made money off of it, and potential production of compromat to entrap and control politicians, financiers, academics, celebrities, just anybody who had a significant amount of power could be brought into this tiny social circle by committing these unspeakable transgressions that would make them all complicit together, and then is thus able to be used as part of this network that Epstein created.
This is just in case you just felt like you were not skeptical enough or hostile enough to the elite the ruling class, the powerful.
Yeah.
They really are actually just as disgusting and despicable as the most unhinged Uber driver that gives you a ride to the airport might think that they are.
So, I mean, I'm not even going to go into detail about some of the more salacious details here and some of the more horrific details, such as cannibalism of infants, which are alleged in some of these documents, and um, much, much more horrific, violent sexual desires being expressed, and then rapes of very young children, not just teenage girls, which is what his predilection was, but apparently he facilitated uh, horrible shit for other people with younger, very young girls. And that's all in the documents. I'm not going to discuss it here. I'm mostly focusing on espionage and finance and geopolitics. I've been down the Epstein rabbit hole this past week, and so has my wife, by the way. Brittany is
Really?
been making herself sick, going down rabbit holes and talking about it with me. So basically, I'm going to move on from that. Epstein is a critical node in the Israeli security state here. He doesn't appear as though he was an official agent, but he was a very important facilitator, which enabled deniable operations alongside former intelligence figures like Ehud Barak and current intelligence figures as well. He fused crime, finance, and statecraft, sex trafficking, financial crimes, intelligence, above board legal finances, and diplomacy, which was all part of an integrated system that reinforced each other, that all those angles reinforced each other. He ran his own privatized foreign policy on behalf of Israel. His career is a clear illustration of how wealth and elite networks and intelligence ties just completely override any kind of legal and ethical constraints.
Yes, and it makes you a bad person.
Right, yeah, exactly. His strategic long-term vision was to strengthen to strengthen Israel's energy independence, to expand Israeli security exports, to neutralize critics of Israel, and to normalize Israel's relations with the Arab states and align U.S. foreign policy with Israeli objectives. And this is all, I'm going to link all these drop site articles. Or I might just link drop site, because you on the splash page, you can click Epstein in Israel. And I used all of those articles to come up with all of that.
Yeah, plus I think I'm very okay with just promoting drop site, generally speaking. I think that's where you should just go to drop site for news.
Well, so another place everyone should go is events in Ukraine. And there were a couple of articles in Events in Ukraine which talked about Epstein's activities and influence in Ukraine, which focuses mostly on sexual exploitation and trafficking of Ukrainian girls. Epstein and his associates, including convicted pedophile Jean-Luc Brunel, repeatedly traveled to Ukraine and other former Soviet states to recruit young women and girls, presenting the facade of modeling opportunities to them in order to entrap them. Leaked emails about transporting girls from Ukraine, assessing their physical appearance, and arranging visas are all throughout the files. And Ukrainian women at the time being discussed here were and are now still experiencing extreme financial hardship, would contact Epstein directly to request money, illustrating that the economic desperation of Ukrainians is systematically exploited. And this Epstein is probably like just the most potent example of the West's relationship with Ukraine.
Right. Just as an expression, but it's not like singular.
Right. In one of Brunel's emails to Epstein, he compared Ukraine's organized exploitation environment to, quote, Europe in the 80s, which the author says is a reference to notorious child abuse networks like Marc Dutroux in Belgium. Dutroux was a pedophile and serial killer slash rapist who started out as just a regular old sex criminal who preyed on individuals and eventually worked his way into throwing these elaborate pedophile orgies for the rich. And it looks like his depravity had some sort of occult element to it as well, as like the investigation of Marc Dutroux shows that there was like a high priestess in this cabin that was used as a temple with like vials of blood and human skulls like in the temple
Jesus.
that they found. And it's similar to like the temple on Epstein's Island. No one really knows what that was for. So
We could probably guess though, just based
yeah,
on what you just said. That might be enough to give you an idea.
yeah, yep. So in he also had several financial and business interests in Ukraine. He actively explored Ukrainian real estate ventures during the periods of crisis, such as 2008 and in 2014. He openly refers to instability in Ukraine as a time to as an opportunity to acquire undervalued assets. And the correspondence shows that he had interests in agriculture, banking, and industry, and as well as it showed him speaking favorably of the consequences of the Donbass war and the collapse of the ruble. And compared to his associates, Epstein appears optimistic about Ukraine's investment potential, seeing opportunity where others perceived risk. So basically, the more chaos, the easier to exploit, in Epstein's opinion. And since he's working with other people's infinite supply of money, then
Yeah.
yeah, he's not really worried about losing anything. So his network that he used to exploit is Ukrainian finances included figures like David Stern, Mikhail Friedman, and Alex de Rothschild, who all appear in these emails discussing Ukrainian economic prospects. He also is involved in political and intermediation and intelligence gathering in Ukraine. He functioned as an intermediary between Western Ukrainian and Russian elites, maintaining contact with figures like Roman Abramovich, suggesting involvement in informal back channel diplomacy. So the people that he has ties to in all of these places that are used as these unofficial channels are rich Jewish financiers.
Hmm.
He engaged in geopolitical discussions with people like Ehud Barak and former Norwegian Prime Minister Thorbjorn Jagland and linguist Noam Chomsky about the political developments in Ukraine. And the emails show that he was a self-styled connector of information. So he was like a broker that exchanged financial advice for political insight. And his financial advice is probably just the best ways to exploit crisis.
Right. Because it seems like his financial advice couldn't be based on very much, no special knowledge as a, like, he wasn't like a financial genius or anything.
Turns out he was a big supporter of Euromaidan in 2014 and and Volodymyr Zelensky in 2019.
Hmm.
Also, there's creepy scientific stuff. In 2018, this guy, Brian Bishop, updated Epstein on genetic editing experiments taking place in Ukrainian laboratories, including mouse testing and human sperm modification, which are illegal in which human sperm modification is mostly illegal in the West. So these emails sort of show that Epstein's network that Epstein's money was being spent to pursue ethically questionable biological research in Ukraine to bypass stricter regulatory environments in places where they aren't run by oligarchs that don't have
Right.
any that don't care about people being exploited and whatever else.
Yeah, so it turns out Jeffrey Epstein was kind of a bad.
Yeah, and what's funny is whenever the Russians first invaded, they captured a bunch of labs that they said were funded by the West doing questionable bioengineering stuff, and that came out in the news. And of course, everyone in the West said that Russia was just making up shit.
Yeah.
And it turns out it was fucking true, as exposed by Jeffrey Epstein's emails.
It's actually remarkable how often that happens.